This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Shohei gets a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live. I have just realized this might be the worst shirt combination that we could have together on one show.
Salmon and mustard, yellow.
The color coordination is not going to go down as the best of 2023.
Although I think only once.
As this ship continues to sink to the bottom, I don't think this is going to be the best. Look great, like outside playing golf, or you're out going to dinner. This color for Link Soul, but mixed with that color, I don't think it's. I don't think we did a good job today.
Usually, we have done a great job of not wearing the same polo or the same shirt. I think we only did that
since opening day.
We did
opening day.
Opening day, and I think we both wore the same sweater the one day. So two
Correct.
times out of 100 and over 100 plus shows we've done during the season, I think that's a pretty good consistency.
I am actually excited. The fact that we are entering, there's something about fall, just the smells, the sounds of the wind. Things are starting to change. Football's here. Baseball's at the end. Like all of a sudden, because I got a bazillion pullovers. I've got baseball pullovers. I've got golf pullovers. I like it when it gets a little chilly. I love summer. I'm a summer guy first and foremost. But I like when it gets a little bit colder and you start pulling out. I'm not talking about the winter gear. And I'm not talking about when we had that atmospheric river or whatever the hell it was called that was coming in. It was raining every day. I'm not talking about that. Don't like snow, don't like rain. But this kind of little chillier weather, a little jacket at night, a little pullover, a little sweater, I dig this.
Yes, the weather. I just realized that I don't have a streaming on Twitter, so I have to fix that real quick. We're on YouTube and Facebook. I didn't get us to Twitter. Hold on. And
Digital media.
Then,
Digital media. That's what we are. We're a multimedia platform.
Boom, we're on Twitter. Athletics
We're now on
24.
Twitter. Well, there we go. So are we on YouTube?
Yeah, we're on YouTube and Facebook.
Are we on Facebook?
Correct.
Are we on Twitter?
Yes, and we're on
stuff I never would have thought I'd ask in my career. Are we on platforms?
And we are now also on we're also on AceCast, athletics.com/AceCast.
We're always on that.
Yeah. So all of our stuff is connected now.
We have a phenomenal show for you today. Our Major League Baseball national columnist, Eno Saris, will be here at 2:30. There's two games.
Oh, I need to switch that. It's 3:30.
It's 3:30?
Yeah, I just switched it. Kirkchen's now at 2:30. Eno's at 3:30.
Timmy Kirkchen, the great Tim Kirkchen from ESPN, who is on the call tonight. There's two games that really you can look at. But a lot of great baseball going on tonight. But one game in our division, which means so much. The rubber game of the 3-game set between the Mariners and the Astros. Whoever wins this game tonight, there's a good chance they will be in the postseason. And the other team, think about this. The Toronto Blue Jays are playing the New York Yankees. We don't focus on the AL East as much, but let's do this. The Toronto, where we stand right now, and we do have some games going today. The D-backs are playing the White Sox. I was watching that. That was 3-0. We'll get you updated on that because obviously that has National League wild card implications. But right now, Toronto has a 1.5 lead over Houston, and Houston has a half-game lead over Seattle. So right now, Texas leads the division. Houston has the last wild card, and Seattle's out right now. But you can't look at the Blue Jays and say, hey, everything's fine, because it's not fine. The Blue Jays stink in division.
Correct.
The Blue Jays are 9 games under 500 against the AL East. 9 games. Like, there's so many things you look at this year with certain teams, right? The Astros can't win at home. Blue Jays can't win a division. Padres can't win in extra innings or one-run games. There's like all these weird things happening in baseball. And we're going to get into that with Eno Saris, because you have the battle of the disappointings going against each other tonight. I want to get to that in a second. But the Blue Jays have also lost 6 of 11 to the Yankees, as the Yankees, the Twins, and actually the Padres are playing the best baseball in September. So when you look at the standings, yes, the destiny is in their own hands in the Blue Jays, but they stink in division, and they've got to finish up here with the Yankees and Garrett Cole tonight. And then after that, you got the Rays. So there's no guarantee the Blue Jays are getting in. And then somebody, if let's just say the Blue Jays do get in, they just need to win 3 games. That means somebody, Houston or Seattle's going home. Can you imagine spring training, this entire season, grinding out all of this? Just grinding and grinding and grinding, and get to the finish line and just how devastating that's going to be? That to me would be devastating. All the flights, all the hotel rooms, all the work, all the time, everybody's beat up. You go through that entire season to fall short. And when I mean short, you're talking half a game. It's not like you're losing out by 5 or 6. You're losing out. How many times have I said on this show, on A's Total Access, brought to you by
Chevron
and the A's Clubhouse Show, every game matters. Every game. These turds in the baseball media, and I'll call them turds because they drive me nuts. Oh, it's April, doesn't matter. It's early. Oh, really? You lost by a half game. You lost by a game. That means that little bump you had in April, if you don't have that bump, you're in the postseason. That bump in that little bump in the road you had in May, all of these games matter. And when someone like me tries to bring that up, you have the baseball guard who tries to poo-poo that. Then at the end of the year, you're standing around going, hey, why are we not in the playoffs? Well, if you didn't do those stupid things in April and you didn't do those stupid things in May, maybe you wouldn't have these problems, right? How many people made the excuses for the Padres? Padres technically, Giants are out, and the Padres somehow are mathematically still alive.
It's weird because if you look at the MLB standings, it still says the Giants are alive, but everyone says they're eliminated. Their tragic number is hit. But the Padres, yeah.
Padres haven't won an extra innings game yet, right?
No.
They're still over, and they're horrifically bad in one-run games. Everybody made excuses. You're like, well, it doesn't matter what your excuses are. You are what your record says you are. Thank you, Hall of Famer Bill Parcells.
Well, now it says on here the Padres playoff percentage is 0 also on Fangraphs playoff odds.
It's not good. Either way, Giants and Padres are basically done. But you have Garrett Cole going tonight. He leads the American League in innings, ERA, WHIP, opponent's OPS among pitchers with at least 125 innings. Could be the first Yankee. He's going to win the Cy Young Award. He's going to be the first Yankee to win the Cy Young Award since Who Am I?
Roger Clemens.
Back in 2001.
It's been a long time.
Been a long time. Yankees have won 22 of 32 starts by Cole. I know you think wins don't matter, but winning games now at the end of the year when you look at the standings and you don't have enough wins to get in the playoffs, wins actually do matter, right?
It's wild that this is going to be his first Cy Young Award after how many good years he's put together. He had the really good year that Verlander outdueled him with more wins. I think he had one more win, but Cole had better ERA, more strikeouts. But Verlander got the Cy Young was at 19.
Verlander had other numbers, though, that he didn't have. I do not want to go over that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, yeah, their
But
numbers are really comparable.
They were
both
comparable.
300 strikeouts both. They both won over 20 games, I'm pretty sure.
So there's no guarantee Toronto gets in. They can't win in division, and that's all they got left. And then you have Houston and Seattle. Whoever wins this game tonight is feeling good. Now, Arizona was playing Chicago this morning, and they won 3-0.
Our Snakes.
So the Snakes are living large and in charge right now. They have the second wild card. They lead it by a game and a half over the Cubs. And then the Marlins, the Cubs, bad loss last night. Marlins, they've got 2 games today against the Mets. 2 games. And they're a half game back of the Cubs. And they've got 2 games today against the Mets.
There's a whole thing apparently.
And the Mets lead right now 4-0 in the bottom of the 4th inning. Game 2 later on today, all at Citi Field. So this is a huge day for the Marlins, huge day for the Astros, huge day for the Mariners, huge day for Cubs, huge day for the Blue Jays. This is a massive day in Major League Baseball.
Steve Cohen had to apologize to the Marlins because apparently they didn't put the tarp on the field on Saturday, and that's what caused the postponement yesterday, and that's why they're playing a doubleheader today. So Cohen went on Twitter and apologized to the Marlins, and I think their fans for
that's a bad look. That is a bad look. I mean, how about that coming down to it right now? 86-72, 85-72, Seattle and Houston.
Never thought I'd say I'm rooting for the Yankees against the Blue Jays. That way, so Seattle can somehow sneak in.
Oh, that's your bet you're worried about. I was like, what? Why are you rooting for that?
Can you imagine if the Astros don't make it?
I'm not rooting for the Yankees in any way. You know what? I want to see them go down in flames.
I'd love to see them finish.
I want to see them down at the bottom of the ocean with us.
I mean, it'd be if they go on a 5-game losing streak at the end of the year, it'd be the first time they finished under 500 since 92.
Oh, just wear it, Yankee fan. Just wear it. Oh, your arrogance. Where is it? Where is that Yankee? It's New York. It's New York. Hey, well, we don't lose. It's about championships, huh? Dick Jeter's the captain. Hey, where's all the New York, huh? I love it. Come to the bottom of the ocean with us, folks. Enjoy it. It's like the Little Mermaid down here. I just spilled my coffee all over the place. But, yeah, this is great. And then the game, listen, I understand it is a bad look for us to be ripping the Giants. It's a bad look. It is. I get it. But we do have to talk baseball. And we cover all 30 teams along with the Athletics, and the Giants have to be one of the 30 teams. We've got to talk about it. But this game tonight between the Padres and the Giants, it just, these two franchises have been dumpster fires. And they have no reason to be. And you look at their seasons. I mean, the Giants are finishing September. They've lost 18 of 24. 18 of 20. I don't watch them every day, but that's something I think we're going to do on Monday. Try and find why the playoff teams are in the playoffs. Because there's a lot of ways to win. Some teams hit dingers. Some teams don't. But they score other ways, like the Guardians last year. Some teams have strong starting pitching. Some teams have strong bullpens. But there's got to be something that we can find that every one of the playoff teams does. Something that's not negotiable. I've got an idea. I'm going to research it, and I think we'll have it for you on Monday. But there's got to be something that they all do. There's got to be something that when you look at their seasons, you go, these 12 teams all did this.
Yeah, like good example, the Twins who the A's are facing in game 2 of the series in Minnesota tonight. They're really good pitching. Their starting pitching is very good. Pablo Lopez is going tonight.
Brewers who just clinched. Yeah. Oh, I thought about you today.
Because of the Brewers?
Yeah.
Because I'm a Brewers honk?
Yes. No, you Harvey Wallbangers. I was watching the speech today Craig Counsell gave and all the champagne and everything. You're really going to leave that? You're going to really leave what you built? I mean, Craig Counsell's been there for how many years?
I think he's the longest tenured manager in the National League.
You're going to leave what you've built all these years in that community and that team, what you've built there, to go sit out a year and then go, oh, that powerhouse New York Mets? By the way, when's the last time the Mets won the World Series?
86?
Yeah, you weren't even born.
Correct.
I was a freshman in high school. Everybody keeps talking like the Mets. You go to the Mets. Hey, go to the Mets. You know, Jeter's not there, but you go to the Mets, huh? Go to Queens. You've won nothing. Zip, zilch, nada. You're a rich owner. You spent all that money. Everybody was talking about how great you are. You won nothing. Why would Craig Counsell, what he's done with that team, inside that community, like, how do you leave that? That's special. What that bond that you have, like we're talking about Brooks Robinson and Tim Kirchner from ESPN will be here a little bit later, and we'll talk about that. That connection when you build something in a market with those people and those communities, how special that is. When you play in a place your entire career, now obviously Counsell's a manager, but Craig Counsell, what he has built there, the equity, sure his family growing there, a great state of Wisconsin. I have no chance of ever living there. I would never live there, but when I went there, I had fun. Green Bay, whoo, you got no chance of getting me there. I had fun at Lambeau Field, but they're great people.
Well, and Milwaukee's buzzing. The Brewers just clinched a playoff spot. The Bucks just got Dame Lillard. Milwaukee's on fire right now, and the Packers are playing well. I know that's Green Bay, but still, I mean,
that's Wisconsin through and through.
Yeah, so you got three things going on pretty well there up there, in the.
But think about that. Think about what you've built as a manager
Midwest.
there. Think about all the speeches and all the relationships. And you really going to leave that?
I mean, I could see the argument for why you'd go to New York because of David Stearns and the connection. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, what he's built there with they have some young guys coming back.
Okay, David Stearns. Okay, a guy that you used to work with has left and he's running another team. Okay. Once again, you're going to leave everything that you built in Milwaukee with all these people and all these relationships because David Stearns went to New York?
Maybe he wants to. I don't know. Counsell doesn't strike me as a guy that wants a bigger spotlight either. So I don't know if that's something he wants to. But I mean, I don't know. Who knows? What if the Brewers plan on going into a teardown with, when Burns is going to leave and they're like, well, we're going to have to start rebuilding soon. And maybe he weighs that on his mind. Like he looks and if like a couple of years down the road, it's like, do I have a better chance of winning in New York or do I have a better chance of winning in Milwaukee? So I think one of the things I can see him doing.
New York's been in a 40-year teardown.
Well, that's true. They had those 2 World Series appearances since then, but
I mean, Tom Seaver and Mike Piazza are not walking through that door, my friend. Did you see how bad it got reported today? Marte, our old buddy Marte, done for the season. Did you see his year?
I know it wasn't great.
Oh, my God. He played like 58 games.
The A's milked the last great year out of him.
Oh, my God. Well, he was phenomenal, right? Sterling Marte was one of my favorite A's of all time. And I said it then. I'll say it now. I will never say a bad word about him. He was so much fun to watch every single day. He reminded you of what it was like to watch Ricky Henderson. He's the first guy who went, this is what it was like watching Ricky.
He ended up selling didn't he sell close to 30 bases for the A's when he was here?
He was magic, man. Every single time he got on, he was going.
And this is before you had it.
And we went from we don't steal bases to don't tell him that. Just let him go.
That's when the run-in A's returned. In 2021 with the A's, Marte ended up stealing 25 bags.
What were his numbers?
He played in 56 games with Oakland. He hit .316, 5 home runs, 30 runs driven in, 37 runs scored, and he sold 25 bags and in 824 OPS.
He was a beast. He was fun to watch. That was great. He's done for the year.
Yeah, he's 34 now, going to be 35 next year.
Oof.
So I'll never, I know no one cares, but I'll still never forget his first game with the Pirates. First at bat, hit a home run. And everyone's like, okay, this is the guy they're all waiting for. And he went from a guy being malnourished when the Pirates found him to being what he is today. I think he's had a pretty good career. And what he did for the A's in the 56 games when they acquired him for Jesus Luzardo, that was a lot of excitement for around a team that I know they missed the playoffs, but he added an injection of life in the second half of the year.
There's no doubt about it. But getting back to the Padres and the Giants, this is kind of like the disaster series at the very end. You got Hader, who 2 nights ago didn't want to enter the game. Bob Melvin looked so dejected and checked out after the game, like, I'm so over this place.
I think I have the audio.
The very next day, it talks about how the Padres want to go from $249 million to $200 million, drop 20% of their payroll. I didn't realize Drew Pomeranz, who doesn't play, is making $10 million.
Yeah, and Mac. So they have, I think it's 7 guys committed for next year at $156 million, and then they have Matt Carpenter still on another year, who has a player option for $5 million. He's going to be 38 years old.
I mean, that's just fiscal irresponsibility. Blake Snell's coming off at 16.6, Josh Hader at 14.1, Pomeranz at 10. Juan Soto looks like he's going to get shipped with, I think Bob Melvin would wink, wink, tell you best move we could make.
But he walks a lot.
He's actually having a great year.
He is. Since May, he's been awesome.
Let him go somewhere else and have that year.
I heard Tom Verducci mention the team that they're playing tonight could be a team. And I'm like, they're not going to trade their prospects. Get out of here.
Juan Soto to the San Francisco Giants?
He would be the guy that, if you keep him long-term, could be a Bonds-esque star for them. But I don't see them. I just don't see them trading the prospects that San Diego would want.
So he earned $23 million this year. This will be arbitration, so he's going to get, I don't know, 30. I mean, how would you feel about that if you're the Giants? You've been dying to sign somebody. You've been dying to get a name guy because you've never replaced Bonds. Buster Posey had an unbelievable career. You got the 3 World Series titles, but Buster was not going to be his one MVP year, but he was never an offensive juggernaut star. You've been looking for that guy. That's why you went after Aaron Judge. That's why you tried to get Carlos Correa, would have been a horrific signing.
They tried to get Stanton before and Harper, and they couldn't land.
Why not Juan Soto? Juan Soto's running out of options. This has not been a good look for him. And he turned down that 400 whatever million it was in Washington. Juan Soto, like, who's going to sign him to this mega deal? Who?
There's not a lot of teams that
It's not going to be the Dodgers. It's not going to be the Angels. So you're taking out the second largest market. Does either New York team get involved in that?
I can see both of them trying to be involved. More so, I think the Mets would be more involved than the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees would want them, but
third largest market is Chicago, and there's no way Cubs and White Sox are getting in that.
I mean, the biggest contract they were going to buy the White Sox was Benintendi last year, so I don't think they're going to get Soto.
I mean, you start to wonder who's going to really be in on this guy that, yes, when Juan Soto is right like he has been, but since he's gone to San Diego, you've heard the people say he sucks on defense. He is a slug. And that's something that maybe I wonder we can get into Eno today. With Eno today, because we had it with Joey Votto yesterday. It's like these guys who walk a lot but don't steal bases
and score runs.
They get on first, but then it's so hard to score them. What is that value? Because let's take Bonds. Bonds stole over 500 bases. So Bonds walks, going to second base. Then you throw in all the doubles. Same thing with Ted Williams. He walked a lot, but he had a boatload of doubles to go with the home runs. These guys that are on this list with leading the league in on-base percentage, they all hit a ton of bombs and a ton of extra base hits, where they basically all double up Joey Votto in runs scored for a career. And we're not talking like a couple hundred. We're talking like well over 1,000 more runs. So is there a way to really look at just – in context? That's always been my problem with so many things we talk about. We don't have context. Well, here's some context. He gets to first. We cannot say, well, it's not his fault he's not. There's a lot that it takes to score somebody like that. So really, what is he going to be worth? Is he really going to break the bank? Because this will be the last year of Juan Soto. I mean, this will be the third time he's traded. The second time he's traded.
35 home runs, 128 walks. How many runs do you think he has scored this year?
Probably right around 100.
94.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it doesn't translate.
Like you brought up the best one when we were talking about this before. Bonds Erie hit 73 home runs. He hit 73 home runs, walked 177 times, and scored 129 runs. So more than well over half of his runs were from his home runs.
Yeah.
So you take that away, he scored like 50 runs that weren't.
But you look at a younger Bonds.
Oh, yeah.
And younger Bonds is stealing bases. He's scoring. I mean, this is as Barry's getting older. But, yeah, you can look at this whole thing about, hey, he walks a lot. Look at his on-base percentage. Joey Votto, it's tough to score him. And that's where these other great players on this list that they had, where you looked at Williams, Ruth, Bonds, guys who led the league on on-base, that you looked at them and you look at their numbers, well, they've got the home runs, they've got the extra base hits, so they've got monster numbers. Guys who just walk without the monster power numbers don't seem to have the runs scored.
I was going to say, like, look, perfect example. Like, I mean, we go back and look at Jack Cuss.
Jack Cuss was always, if you put him in a better lineup.
Adam Dunn's in it. Well, actually, Dunn had some speed, but they're the prototypical three-true outcome. Like, how many runs does Joey Gallo score? Like, Adam Dunn, his best year run scored, he scored 107 runs in 05. He walked 114 times and hit 40 home runs. So take away the 40 home runs, he only scored, was that 67 runs?
Yeah, because it becomes hard when you put a slug on first base. It is hard to score him. You're going to need 2 extra base hits or an extra base hit and a single. There's a lot of things that go on with a non-athletic guy on the bases. So we have everybody who says, do I care how he gets on first base? Okay, I'll agree with you. No, it's great he got on first base. But how do I get him around? How do I get him to touch home plate? There's certain guys that have that knack for touching home plate. Well, it's usually not guys who are slugs.
No, I pulled up Votto. His age 27 years, so 2 years ago. He hit 199, shocker. He scored 90 runs, walked 111 times, and hit 38 home runs. So he's not a guy that gets around the bases quickly. I mean, the most bases he ever stole in a season was, wait for it, 7. So he's another. I mean, these two. You're right. The 3 true outcome guys. They just don't. You have to do so much to get them to score.
Yeah. How do I get this guy around the bases? And that's why you see so many people wanting to go in a direction of more young. I mean, we're seeing it now with the A's, a younger, more athletic team. It's far better to watch. How about Gabe Kapler and Logan Webb? Quote from Logan Webb, getting back to the Padres, Giants, kind of the disappointment series, right, of where these two teams are. Logan Webb said, quote, I'm tired of losing. It's not enjoyable. We've got to make some big changes in here to create the winning culture that we want to show up every year to try and win the whole thing. Gabe Kapler's response, quote, I loved it and totally agree with everything he said. We have to set a standard every time we come to the ballpark.
Interesting.
So much about what's happening with the Giants and with the Padres is now coming out here at the end of the season. So much is coming out about culture. So much is coming out about how do we lead ourselves and go into battle on a daily basis and essentially win or lose. And you're looking at 2 franchises who right now have no reason to not be competitive and to have the seasons that they're having. They've got new stadiums. Well, they're not new anymore, but they're revenue-generating stadiums. Giants have a great cable deal. Giants have been printing money for years. Padres, they went all in, spending record amounts of money. There's no reason these two teams should be looking at a game where they are at the end of September, both at 78 and 80. No one would have predicted that when we were down at the winter meetings. Hey, when we're doing a show in September and the Giants and the Padres are facing each other, they're going to be both 78 and 80.
Well, for the Padres, we definitely didn't see this coming. We know the Giants have been 500.
God, no.
Giants have been 500. No, they're actually below 500 now. Since the 107 win season 2 years ago, they're actually under 500.
Do we need more Matt Waldrons on the in baseball?
The knuckleballer?
Yeah.
I like watching a knuckleballer.
He has thrown 100, and we saw him against the A's.
Yeah.
The Padre knuckleballer. I just have it in front of me, so I want to bring it up. He has thrown 161 knuckleballs this season, the most since Stephen Wright, not the comic, Stephen Wright, Guardian back in the day. That was when he was with the Guardians, right? Stephen Wright?
What I feel like wasn't he with Atlanta too? Let's see. What's the last team he pitched for? No.
Would have been the Indians. You call them the Guardians now.
His Red Sox. His last year in baseball was with his last. He was actually spent his whole career in Boston.
The whole career in Boston?
Yeah.
I stand corrected. He threw 719 in 2018. Now, you might say, well, what's the data behind the knuckleball?
He did have a 2.68 ERA that year.
Steve Sparks, our buddy, former A, now broadcaster, radio broadcaster for the Astros, is like, I don't know why we don't bring these guys up. They're the one guys that can eat innings, and they're not going to need Tommy John. Opponents are only hitting 222 against his knuckleball this year. So a guy that can pitch, hell, he can pitch every day.
Yeah, he could. I mean, I liked what I saw. Go back because I have Wright's page in front of me. He started 24 games in 16, and he had 156 and 2/3 innings. I mean, he makes over 30 starts. He's looking close to well over 200 innings.
200 innings? You got 200 innings, and people are hitting like 220 off your knuckleball, and I know you're not going to need Tommy John surgery, and I don't have to worry about how many starts. Oh, God, how old is he? How long is he in his career? I can't start him. I mean, he can only go 4 innings, the workload. I don't got to worry about any of that garbage with a knuckleballer.
How old is Waldron? He is he's 26. Okay, because Wright was 28 when he debuted. So knuckleballers seem to break in later.
Let's go.
I'm trying to think. Oh, but I was thinking of Jamie Wright, the former pitcher with the Braves. Who the most recent knuckleballers you saw? The Orioles had a guy most recently. Obviously, R.A. Dickey won the Cy Young as a knuckleballer.
The great R.A. Dickey with the Blue Jays.
Sparksy, Waldron. Are we forgetting? I mean, I know
the Pirate Red. I mean, the Pirate
Wakefield.
Tim Wakefield.
But I feel like there's one other like there's not been a lot of knuckleballers anymore. But
bring him up. Bring it. Let's get some knuck nasty going.
I'm pretty
you
sure.
Ever tried to hit a knuckleball?
Well, I never knew anyone that threw one.
Okay, I'm telling you, it when it's going, it's almost impossible. It's tough. So Shane Carley, if any of you guys remember Shane Carley, Bay Area baseball player. I think he played some at Laney, ended up going to Fresno State, and then transferring to San Jose State. So my old teammate, Shane Carley, playing catch with him, he never threw it in a game, but he had like the nastiest knuckleball. It was hard just to play catch with him because it just moves. And if it's a hard knuckleball, it's whoa, it's hard just to catch. Bring back the knuckleball.
Maybe that's the next market inefficiency that baseball finds. The knuckleballer.
Find a guy. Well, there's something you're going to have to find. Somebody that can eat innings. Somebody that can actually give you innings. Because that's one thing, when I mention Zach Neal, whether it's Zach Neal or whoever you want to mention, you're going to need to find journeyman guys that can come in and give you starts. It's just, it's going to have to happen. You're going to have a boatload of Zach Neals in your organization. I don't care how old they are. I don't care really who they are. You're just going to need to be able to, hey, on this day, I need somebody to come up and soak up at least 5-6 innings. You're going to need that.
I feel like some teams have that guy. Like the A's obviously have Neal. The Giants have Manaea and Stripling and Brebbia.
That's always one of my favorite discussions. The Giants have two starting pitchers. No, they had starters that they signed. They just don't start them.
Yeah, they were only using.
Manaea actually the last 3 starts has thrown the ball well.
Yeah, then Stripling. They have Brebbia. They have one other guy. Oh, the guy from the Aurora, Jacob Junis, as well.
Junis.
So they have a bunch of guys. Like every team has this kind of guy, but Zach Neal seemed to be the guy of the A's. Him or because Austin Pruitt's been injured, so now kind of Zach Neal's kind of been taking his spot with Pruitt being out.
Pruitt has actually been a pretty decent A.
Yeah, and he's a mid-30s right-handed guy that he's had a nice run with the A's.
Can do a lot of different things for me, right? He can pitch in middle of the games when I need him. Even before that, he can make that happen.
Be an opener.
I remember Pruitt, they thought he was going to be an opener. Remember that one night? And Mark Kotze told us, kind of off the record last year, where he said, hey, listen, I don't want to go down the minor leagues. I want Pruitt to start. And Pruitt got him 5 innings. It was like a victory for Mark Kotze in his young managerial career.
Now he's a veteran. Is going at the end of his second year almost.
Yeah, if you're Mark Kotze, I mean,
he was on with Fair and Duquette this morning. Very positive.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to be.
I mean, what's he gonna be on there and be like, oh man?
I mean, he knew what he was getting into. It's a tough gig, man. It's a tough gig. This is your opportunity to be a manager with a franchise that you love, and you know you're just going to have to wear it. And you're going to have to go through this. But as someone who's so competitive, I don't know how Kotze does it day in and day out. Now, I can tell you when Johnny Gomes talked to me about Lou Piniella was half asleep during the games at some point.
Son.
No, son. No. That's not Mark Kotze. How he has gotten through these 2 years is unbelievable. And still to this date, to be fair, it's tough to judge anybody in these circumstances. It's tough to judge whether a guy is a great manager, not a great manager, knows what he do. You know, it's really hard to judge somebody when you go in with no chance. When you go in and you know you have no chance of winning. None. That is a brutal proposition. And it happens. It happens in all sports. You take over football teams, you take over basketball teams. You know you got like the San Jose Sharks this year are not going to win.
Wow.
Oh, am I spoiler alert?
Well, I mean, they won. I know they lost last night, but they won their first preseason game, and you're already saying season's over.
Spoiler alert. I'm sorry, Shark Nation.
I've been told from someone on the inside that they won't be very good this year.
Team Teal.
Yeah.
Am I breaking the hearts of Team Teal already?
My sources told me that don't expect a little bit of what happened last year.
What was their record last year?
Not good.
I checked out.
They weren't a playoff team. I mean, they had a top 5 pick in the draft. That's the way hockey is.
But yeah, you got no shot. Well, I heard Jeff Greenberg on today, the new general manager of the Tigers. Good news. He's bringing his hockey analytics.
Hey, Blackhawks had number 1 pick in the draft. I'm just saying. They took Connor Bedard.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, he was talking about, hockey analytics are not quite like baseball analytics.
No, there's some, but there's nothing like what we do in baseball.
And I took a picture of this. This is great. The Detroit Tigers, because we remember the Detroit Tigers battling them in the playoffs. 2014, the Tigers finished 90-72 in first place. You want to know how it's been for Detroit since 2014?
They haven't had a winning season.
74-87. Then they went 86-75, but they finished in second. Then they went 64-98, 64-98, 47-114. Even in the COVID year, terrible, 23-35. And then 2021, 77-85. Last year, 66-96. And this season, 74-83. And now you're selling future once again. Remember I did the crystal ball thing yesterday? They're still selling future. After all these years being under 500, we're still selling the future.
Yeah, them and the Angels had the longest playoff drought in baseball, 8 years or 8 seasons. Now 9, right? No, 8. Yeah, 8.
Oh, my God. It is unbelievable. All right, we got Timmy Kirchin ready to rock?
Yeah.
All right, earlier today, obviously Tim Kirchin has been doing this a long time with ESPN as a writer, as a broadcaster. Going to be doing the game tonight with our buddy Roxy Bernstein up in the Pacific Northwest. What did Jose Altuve call it? Hold on. Jose Altuve called it. Oh, that's Padres, Giants. Jose Altuve called it probably the biggest game of the year. That's a statement right there.
That's a veteran leader.
Probably not the biggest game of the year. Probably the biggest game of the year. Mariners are looking to earn back-to-back postseason berths for the second time in franchise history.
It's crazy.
You want me to read that again, A's fans? Whenever we think it's bad, Mariners are looking to earn Back-to-back postseason bursts for the second time in franchise history. Only in 2001 has it ever happened. Wow, that is bad. That is bad.
Yeah, it is.
Houston's seeking their 7th straight.
Oh,
Whoever
that's pretty
wins tonight, they've got a leg up. Roxy Bernstein and Tim Kirchin on the call. Tim Kirchin earlier, remember, he's based in Baltimore, grew up in Maryland. He's been there for a long, long time. So we're going to address right out of the gate because he's done 2 great pieces back to back. One on Brooks Robinson, and we haven't even talked about Terry Francona. We've got to get into what the A's meant to Terry Francona's career. Wasn't here a long time, but the lasting impression, what it did for his career, we'll get into it. But here is Tim Kirchin from ESPN. Tim, we always appreciate the time when you come on A's Cast Live. I thought it was a beautiful piece you did on ESPN.com about Brooks Robinson. We've been trying to educate our younger listeners and viewers about how this guy just wasn't a great third baseman. He just wasn't a great player, Hall of Famer. This guy was a sports star, and even what he did for people in the community, just a special person off the field. You knew Brooks Robinson, unfortunately, passed yesterday. Just talk to us about what Brooks meant to baseball and to so many people, especially in Baltimore.
Yeah, he's the greatest defensive third baseman of all time and an underrated offensive player, 2,800 hits, MVP, all that. But Brooks is the single nicest man that I've ever met in a major league uniform, and I've covered for 43 years. To be that big and good of a player and to be that kind to everyone that he ever came in contact with was just amazing to me. And a friend of mine, Gordon Beard, was an AP sports writer in Baltimore many years ago. And after Brooks retired in 1977, Gordon made a speech at Brooks's retirement and said, in New York, they named a candy bar after Reggie Jackson. Here in Baltimore, we name our children after Brooks Robinson. And it's true. That's how important he was. You know, Baltimore is a very rich sports town. Johnny Unitas, Cal Ripken, dozens of football and baseball players who made such an impact. But Brooks Robinson was the greatest sports star ever to play in Baltimore. And it was not just because he was so good on the field, but because of the way he treated people off the field.
You wish you could teach the young players, and I understand about free agency and money and getting what you can get for your family, but it's just amazing what happens when a player stays with the same team his entire career and how he's remembered far beyond when you leave this earth. You're always going to be remembered. I remember the first time that I saw a statue in Baltimore. I'm like, it was pouring rain. I'm like, I got to get a picture with that statue, and it has the gold glove. I mean, he's the type of icon that will be remembered forever. You don't get that when you leave teams in free agency. Maybe we're just a little selfish, but and old school, but there's just something special about when you spend your entire career and generations get to watch you all in one town.
Yeah, 23 years for Brooks Robinson, all with the Orioles. And I promise you, when Cal Ripken came along, Cal Ripken kind of grew up watching Brooks Robinson play. It was really important to Cal Ripken, who's from Aberdeen, Maryland, very close to Baltimore, that he spend his whole career with the Orioles because that's what his first baseball hero, Brooks Robinson, did. I totally agree with you, but unfortunately, that's not how it works these days.
When you look at Baltimore and the transformation of the Orioles, what is the town like? Has everybody bought in? I know it was rough and a lot of people weren't buying it at first, but they have a legit chance to win the World Series this year. What's baseball fever like in Baltimore truly for all these years? One of the best baseball towns in America.
Yeah, it really is. And they're not selling out every single game, but people are now on board, and they should be. Just remember, 2 years ago, they finished 39 games out of fourth place. That's the second worst record ever to finish behind the next worst team in your league or your division. And here it is 2 years later, and I think they're going to win 100 games, which they would join then the New York Mets in 69 as the only team in history to win 100 games, 2 years, 3 years, or in a 3-year span, lose 100 games and then win 100 games. That's what the transformation has been like. Oriole fans are going crazy, and they should, because not only is this a good team, it's a really fun team to watch. Young, hungry, really athletic. It is a really fun team to watch, and it's only going to get better from here because they have more young kids on the way.
Well, you know how much we're following the AL West, our own division, and you're doing the game tonight with my dear friend Roxy Bernstein, who the great Cal Bear. We love Roxy, and you're on ESPN Radio tonight up in the Pacific Northwest. This is a massive rubber game tonight between the Astros and the Mariners. You may say the winner of tonight's game, even though we got a few left, the winner of tonight's game maybe almost submits itself into the postseason. It's hard in 162 games to go this one game, but just talk about the game you're calling tonight. It's huge between the Astros and the Mariners.
Right. It is enormous. As you know, the Mariners are a half a game behind the Astros for the final wild card spot. If they were to lose tonight, it would be a game and a half behind. And then they got the Rangers coming in for 4 games. And the Rangers, of course, are trying to win the division, so they have everything to play for. So if the Mariners can win tonight and go a half a game ahead, and the Astros have to go to Arizona, not an easy place to play. The Diamondbacks are good, young, hungry, athletic team like the Orioles. And wouldn't it be amazing if the Astros didn't even make the playoffs? I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but this AL West has been absolute bedlam for the last month. And tonight's the biggest game of the season.
Well, somebody, Houston, Seattle, Toronto, somebody's not making the playoffs. And when you look at a long year like this and you were in it all year long and you come up to the doorstep of the postseason and you don't make it, whoever doesn't make it, how devastating for this organization and their offseason will it be?
Well, it'll be devastating for the Astros if they don't make it, because they were considered having a chance at least to repeat as World Series champs, and then they don't even make the playoffs. So, yes, that would be devastating. It would be also for the Mariners, who last year made the playoffs for the first time since 2001. They got everyone charged up here in Seattle, as they should have. It was great last year, especially at the end. And then if they don't make the playoffs with all the expectations, that would have been that's not going to go over well. And the Rangers, after their tremendous start, it looked like they were going to be a runaway winner in the division, make the playoffs for sure. When you go from 68 wins and then get people all excited and then fade at the end, that would be really disappointing also. But I think the biggest disappointment would be the Astros, given they won the World Series last year.
You know, we recently saw Terry Francona, Steve Vucinich, our longtime clubhouse manager, retired. We saw him down in Arizona at the party. We had him on this show at the winter meetings. Terry Francona has said that 1 year being the bench coach in Oakland kind of re-energized his career and getting to know analytics. It's one of the reasons why he got the Boston job. So we know how much the Oakland A's mean to Terry Francona. Just wanted to bring that up for our fans because he wasn't here long, but it was a big impression on his career. He's had an unbelievable career as a manager. You think about what he did in Boston, what he's done in Cleveland. Today, the final game in Cleveland. How odd is that going to be that Terry Francona could really be walking away from baseball?
Yeah, I wrote a long story about him that ran today on ESPN.com. Just my recollections, my remembrances of Tito Francona. He's an amazing person, a great baseball man, a first ballot Hall of Famer. But much like with Brooks Robinson, the way that he treats people is just amazing. He has such an incredible touch with people. You know, he worked at ESPN for 1 year. I knew him well before then, but I really got to know him well when I would travel with him for a week. And he still knows the names of production assistants who work at ESPN, and he hasn't been there in 12 years. This is how he is. His ability to relate to people, especially to his players, is why he's a great manager. And as I wrote, it's going to be a sad and a bad day for baseball when Tito Francona walks away, because simply the game is better when he's in it.
You know, we study so much with numbers, data. There's so much biomechanics now. There's so many different things that are in our game, of course, analytics and everything. But sometimes things went bad for Francona in Boston. And I'm thinking about our good friend Bob Melvin in San Diego. You look at the numbers, and there's no way the Padres should be this bad, but they're about to be eliminated. It's been a rocky ride. Just how do we explain a season like when you see the Padres? If you look at the numbers, the record shouldn't be that, but you are what your record says you are. What do you make of the Padres?
Yeah, I'm really surprised where they are. I am really surprised they got off to such a terrible start. But I think the lesson we've learned again is when you bring in all sorts of diverse personalities and it doesn't become a team automatically. In fact, you look at the teams that are much less talented than the Padres are, and they play together. It sounds corny, but I just think there's a disconnect there, and I am not going to blame Bob Melvin for not being able to pull that together, because you pay that kind of money to that many players, you bring them in from different places, you just kind of fit them in and say, all right, this will work. That's not how baseball works. And I am really surprised that when this season's over, the Padres will not be playing in October. I didn't see that coming.
Let's end on this, and I almost feel foolish asking you this because I think I know the answer. I just don't want it to be true. But how many teams are going to look what happened with the Mets? They're going to look what happened with the Padres, and they're going to go in the offseason and not fall into that free agency trap where we have 10-year, 11-year, 13-year deals that we just know are god-awful. Are teams going to learn for this, or am I just being foolish?
No, I think they are. I think you're right. I think the way that the Reds and the Orioles and the Diamondbacks especially have played this year, even the Marlins, without spending enormous amounts of money, they put a good team together with their own people. I mean, look what's happened to the Yankees. The Yankees were terrible, and since August the 28th, they have the best record in baseball, and it's because they brought up their young guys and said, all right, let's just go play aggressive, hard-nosed baseball, and it's worked. I think a lot of teams are looking at it. They're recognizing this is a young man's game, and it's not a great year for free agents beyond Shohei Ohtani. So my guess is it's not going to be a real robust free agent market, in part because there aren't great players, but I think teams are recognizing, let's do this with our own homegrown guys.
Well, I just hope at some point we're going to get those basketball games down at spring training going again, because David Forst has weighed in. AJ Preller has weighed in. Everybody's talking about it. It doesn't matter how – I know you're not as young as you used to be, but everybody says shooting the ball and handling the rock, Tim Kirchin's the man.
Well, AJ Preller was a nightmare to guard. Look, he's about 20 years younger than me, and he's bigger than me, stronger than me. Boy, I hated guarding him, but I love playing in those games all those years. And hopefully next spring in Phoenix and Scottsdale we'll play.
Hey, great stuff as always. We truly appreciate the time. You're an icon in our business, and you have a great call with our good friend Roxy Bernstein tonight up in the Pacific Northwest.
My pleasure, Chris. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Take care, Tim. It's one of the best stories, right? David Forst weighed in on it. All the guys, like they had this group of up-and-coming front office guys, right? You had this group of, they weren't GMs yet. They were all younger, and our David Forst was a part of it. I first heard about it by AJ Preller. I think it was on with Buster Olney.
Yeah.
And AJ Preller started just naming off all these names, and they were names we didn't know who these guys were. Like AJ Preller, who now everybody in baseball knows, was an international scout for the Rangers, right? David Forst was an assistant GM. He wasn't even the main assistant. These guys were, but they were all hoopers, and they get together super early and play basketball, and they all have Tim Kirchin stories about how competitive he's 5'5", but supposedly can flat out play. He's like the Muggsy Bogues of baseball writers. Think about that. Tim Kirk, when I talked to a Hall of Famer, you love his voice. I mean,
Future Hall.
future Hall of Fame. I mean, what is the award for writers in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Isn't that it's a Spink Award, right?
Yeah, Ford C. Frick for broadcasters. Has he gotten that yet?
He got the award. It was like the Baseball Writers Excellence Award. He got a thing for the Hall of Fame last year.
Yeah, Tim Kirchin's a legend. It's great to have him on the program.
It is the Baseball Writers of America Association Career Excellence Award, and that's what Tim got last year.
I would love to see that game where a 5'5" guy who's older than everybody is out there dominating.
He's 66, I think. So he's
Yeah,
up there. He's in his mid-60s.
Yeah.
By the way, it used to be the J.G. Taylor Spink Award. They switched it in. So yeah, Tim got it last year. Jason Stark has gotten it.
The Hooper, the guy you don't want to bring in now in front offices is Chris Young.
Oh yeah, that's not.
Now you're bringing in 6'10", played at Princeton. I mean, it's going to be a competitive advantage there. Former big right-hander for the Royals, Padres,
Mets.
Range. Did he pitch for the Rangers too?
Let's find out. Well, good luck to the guys that play in the Grapefruit League.
Ooh, wouldn't that be great? Front office grapefruit versus front office cactus league hoop game that no one would care about. You got to go wrong, Chris.
Yeah, there he is. He was a Ranger, Padre, Met, Mariner, Royal.
Who doesn't remember Mariner Chris Young?
He won 12 games that year.
He had a good career.
Yeah,
I
79
mean, you
wins.
think about what a great athlete. I mean, the guy back when Princeton was shocking people in the NCAA tournament, then he plays baseball. He won 79 games, had a 13-year career, and now he's a GM of the Texas Rangers. Pretty big deal.
Yeah, I don't know if they played together, but this is another guy. The Pirates had Ollendorf back in the day. He was a Princeton baseball player too, 6'4". Imagine those two. I mean, he could play small forward, and that guy was playing. I think he might have played basketball too at Princeton. I just remember them both. They always talked about how they're both from Texas. Yeah, it's not fair if you take Chris Young.
Can you mention the duo of Chris Young, 6'10", and Tim Kirchin at 5'5"?
Talk about that pick and roll.
Oh, wouldn't be easy to guard. You'd lose Kirchin on the wing.
That's Stockton and Malone-esque.
Oh my God, let's get this rolling. Can you imagine we're on the side betting on the games, throwing down cash down spring training?
I mean, now I think David says he kind of moved on from pickup basketball.
He's pickleball now.
Because I asked him about playing basketball, and he goes, I play pickleball. Now I can tell him, let's play pickleball.
You guys can have your Oakland A's pickleball league.
Yeah, I got a game tonight.
You have a game tonight?
Yeah.
You're in a pickleball league.
Sorry, last week. We got our butts kicked game 1.
There's pickleball leagues?
Yeah. San Jose, right down the street from my apartment, 5 blocks away.
Are these people you know?
No, it's a random league. It's all for beginners.
The
people we played were not beginners.
And they're all in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They. You know what? I think there's 4. I don't know how many teams are in this league, but it's every Wednesday night we play. Like between 6:30 or you can play at 7:30.
What are you playing for?
What we paid. There's a thing you get a trophy at the end.
Does everybody get a trophy?
You all
get a pickleball trophy.
We all got
good job. Good job.
We got T-shirts.
Good job, pickleballers.
I'll tell my teammates to bring them tonight. I'll bring it on Friday. Show everyone what it looks like.
So like a bowling league, everybody has their shirts. Your pickleball league, everybody's going to have
Apparently the league put this shirt together, though, so I don't know what it looks like. So I can only imagine it's either going to be very high quality or very low quality.
Game 1 between the Mets and the Marlins. Right now, top of the 7th. Mets lead 6-1. This is huge. Arizona got a big win down on the south side of Chicago, beating the White Sox 3-0. Every one of these wins, man, we're running out of time. And of course, game 2 later on today in Queens, Marlins Mets. So Marlins going down game 1 hurts. Can you imagine you get swept this time of the year in a doubleheader? This could sink the battleship of the Miami Marlins.
I think they still never wanted. Have they wanted? Did they win a division title? So
both times they won the World Series, they were a wild card team.
Right? Have the Rockies never won their division either?
No, they were a wild card team when they went to the World Series.
And every time they've been in the playoffs, they've been a wild card team.
I mean, you think about that. There's a lot of teams that they've been terrible for a long time. They've been terrible. I mean, the Kansas City Royals had a little bit of a run, and it led to 2 World Series and a World Series. But they were bad forever and bad again. Pirates have been bad for years.
Since 2015.
And they were horrifically bad for 20 years before that.
Thank you.
Rockies have never won their division. Marlins have never won their division. Mariners are trying just to win and get to back-to-back playoffs for the first time ever in their history.
You know, the White Sox just did that for the first time in franchise history 2 years ago. They've never, a team that's been around for over 100 years, a legacy team, back-to-back postseason appearances, first time ever was 20 and 21.
I mean, Ray Fosse used to tell us the Cleveland stories that you'd have the sellout on opening day and then the season was over after opening day and they knew it. I mean, it is amazing how many teams are just, I mean, the A's, we know where we are, but we're coming off just having won and gone to the playoffs 3 straight years.
Detroit's been bad for a while.
And the year we didn't go to the playoffs after that for the 4th straight year, 186 games.
The AL Central is probably the division that has the most. I don't know. The West is kind of like that too, where teams are so up and down and change so often. I mean, the Angels have just been the team that's been bad the last 8 years.
The Central has been bad.
Yeah, if it's not Minnesota,
Central's bad.
If it's not Minnesota, it's Detroit. I mean, you don't really get much out of Kansas City. You're not getting much out of the White Sox, and Cleveland's been here and there. They're pretty consistent, but
they have been bad. Did you have any opinion on remember when I told you a long time ago, just to talk about stuff other than baseball real quick, and I know we got to get to a break, but remember when I told you there was no chance Joe Lacob is not going to get the WNBA team? I have interviewed Joe Lacob multiple times. I've had conversations. I understand the kind of man and businessman Joe Lacob is. And when people were actually trying to sell you that the WNBA is funded by the NBA, fact or fiction?
Fact.
So you're telling me that the WNBA is going to come into the Bay Area and Joe Lacob's not getting a piece of it? You really believe that? We said it on this show. That's not going to happen. And then the mouthpieces for the Warriors on The Athletic, and yes, that's been going on for a while now, they're now letting it out. Oh, yeah, WNBA, it's going to be Joe Lacob. And where are they going to play?
Chase Center.
Who owns the Chase Center?
Joe Lacob.
Mm-hmm. But still got the practice facility over in Oakland, and they can practice over in Oakland in Joe Lacob's practice facility. I couldn't believe people actually tried to sell that. It's like bringing back Floyd Kephart, Don Knaus vibes for me, stuff that's being sold, stuff that I lived through for years, and probably some of you don't even remember it. Do you remember Floyd Kephart?
Yeah, I was living here when that.
He's going to build all 3 new stadiums, but had no connections to the teams.
I think we're.
Don't you think you need to have a relationship with the teams? They're going to want to say on the buildings and everything. And they're all saying we have no connection to this guy. Who is this guy? Some random developer out of San Diego shows up, and I'm going to rebuild everything. And everybody went, oh, this is awesome. Don Knaus, who was the CEO of Clorox, was holding press conferences. I interviewed him on 95.7 The Game back in the day when I worked there. I just get these vibes that I had years ago. But I was like, if you think Joe Lacob is not going to take the W, I mean, technically he's helping fund the WNBA. You think he's not going to get his part of it?
Oh no, he will. No, the game he'll make plenty of money at Chase Center.
I mean, you think like the Lakers? Who are they? Are they the
Sparks?
I was about to say the Galaxy.
That's soccer.
You think the Lakers, the Buss family, was not going to have their piece of the WNBA? Really? It's not how this thing works. We told you that a long time ago. Joe Lacob is a businessman. We got Eno Saris coming up here at 3:30. We've got to find by Monday when we do our end of the year show. We've got to find out what is it that all 12 teams do. There has to be something. I'm seeing something you're not going to like.
And then I found something that only one team's kind of the outlier.
There's always that's the problem. There's always an outlier. Like go to bullpen. Pretty much all the playoff teams got a good bullpen except the Rangers. The Rangers bullpen has been horrifically bad. So that takes them out. There's always got to be something, right, that all of them do that we can say, well, they all do this. Or is there not? I tried to say defense. In my mind, I tried to think, hey, you got to play defense, right? Well, who doesn't play defense?
The Phillies.
Take that idea out. I'm struggling with this. I mean, isn't there something that they all do? Isn't there one key ingredient that they all have?
There's one thing I'm going to look up during the break, see if and I'll save it for Monday, but there's one thing I'm thinking of with the way the new rules work and see where teams rank.
I'm just going to tell you this, and you can see it. I have it up on my computer right now. Teams, rotations, wins, which you guys say wins don't matter. But if I look at the best teams in baseball, the majority of all these teams, all of them, their starting rotations have a lot of wins.
Yeah. It's crazy. I still am blown away at the Dodgers. Not that they have the second most wins. Their leader in innings pitched is Clayton Kershaw. It's only like 125.
And there's not an outlier that's in like the bottom 8.
The Reds.
Are the Reds down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And the Marlins are, but
they may not make it though.
Yeah. Well, the Reds are.
They're kind of out.
Yeah, they're on the cusp too, right? I think they're under the Marlins.
Yeah, they got a double dip going right now, though. So, so Reds right now they're only a game and a half back of Chicago for that last one. Where's Chicago starters?
Cubs are up there because of Steele.
Yeah, I mean, most of the teams that have done well this year and are going to the playoffs have really good records for their starting pitchers.
It's the same thing with defense. A lot of them are very good on defense, except for the Phillies.
But we got it. It's the 12.
Yeah. What?
Because once we get rid of, we're going to get rid of either the Blue Jays, the Astros, assuming Texas wins.
Yeah. Remember, they got to play a series with the Mariners end the year.
So somebody's going home between the Blue Jays, the Astros, and the Mariners. And then in the National League. But on Sunday night, you and I got to crunch the numbers and find out what is the one thing that all 12 do.
It's not stolen bases. I just looked. The Rangers are 27th in stolen bases.
It's not stolen bases?
No. Remember, didn't the Rangers lead baseball last year in stolen bases? How did they get so bad from a year over year?
Like whip.
Twins don't steal bases either.
Tigers are up there in whip, and they stink.
Just to let everyone know, SC Ruiz and Ronald Acuna Jr. each have more stolen bases than the entire San Francisco Giants team.
You think it's homers?
No,
Mets are in top 10. Cardinals are 11th. Padres are 12th. Even the Reds are 14th. So that takes homers.
Who's towards the bottom, though? Is there any playoff teams?
Brewers.
Brewers, yeah.
Brewers and Marlins in the playoff hunt. D-backs are 21st. The A's have more home runs. There's a good chance D-backs are going to be in the postseason, right?
Well, they're in right now.
A's have more home runs than the D-backs. There's a chance Marlins are going to be in the playoffs. A's have more home runs than the Marlins. Brewers are officially in the playoffs. A's have more home runs than the Brewers. Think about that. The Brewers are a playoff team, and the A's have more home runs. That's shocking.
I looked at batting average. The Brewers are 24th. The Twins are 22nd. The Mariners are 20th.
Maybe one of the best stories in baseball is Rowdy Tellez telling the story of Josh Donaldson rolling in and not introducing himself to people in the clubhouse in Milwaukee. Why? Because they already should know who I am.
I have that audio. We can play that for a break.
Come on. That was great. You didn't like that?
Yeah, let's just play it. I have it right here. Hold on.
What's the one piece of trash talk that you put on your first piece of trash talk that you put on JD when you saw him, or when you felt comfortable that he wasn't going to beat you up?
I wasn't scared of him to start with.
You're a little scared of him.
I absolutely was not. He walked in the clubhouse. He walked in the clubhouse and walked straight by, and I was like, "Hey," with a couple other words after that. I was like, "When you walk in the clubhouse, you introduce yourself to your new teammates," and he goes, "Everybody knows who I am." And when all right, great. And then I was like, "Yeah, hey." And then when you see a former teammate, you say, "What's up?" And he was like, "Hey, are you on the seafood diet?" And I was like, "Yeah, good one. Seafood, eat food. Beat you to it."
There were some expletives after that, so I cut it out. Yeah. That was on the show Foul Territory.
Yeah, that's great. They should know who I am. You're the hired gun. You've been brought in to help lead that, to give them some power. But yeah, power is not. I mean, Guardians showed it last year. Guardians moved on to take on the Yankees after they took down the Tampa Bay Rays. Power plays, there's no doubt, but it's not the end all. What is the one thing every single playoff team does well?
You know what we also need to do a rant on Monday? But why the Braves will win the World Series, especially if they break the home run record. They're 6 away from tying it.
They're not going to win the World Series. I've already told you that.
No, I was waiting for them to officially break the record, and then you can.
The Braves are not going to win the World Series. The Braves have gotten the MLB Network notes, kiss of death. When they start blowing you up every day and telling you how historical you are, we saw it with the Yankees, we saw it with the Dodgers, and now we're seeing it with the Braves. It's the kiss of death. It's like the Madden curse. It's like the Madden curse. You get on the game of Madden, you're in trouble.
Or the curse you sent me last night about Super Bowl quarterbacks.
Oh, my God. Folks, do you realize if you are a quarterback and you go to the Super Bowl and you lose, you might as well retire. Bad things are going to happen to you. Bad things. I was shocked. I mean, here you are. You're the quarterback of a Super Bowl team. It's the biggest game in the world, right? Well, in our country, I'm sure there's some soccer. Are there soccer games?
Yeah.
That have better numbers than the Super Bowl?
I don't.
Television-wise.
I don't know for sure, but I'm sure a lot of people click to watch at the time Messi and Ronaldo, and those guys played over in Europe. They're pretty popular. I don't have the numbers to that, though. I don't know what European television is. Is it bigger
than the Super Bowl?
I'm going to lean with no, because I think everyone watches the Super Bowl, but
other countries watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you're not a football fan. I don't know if you're
Which
sitting here.
Football are you talking about?
Not football Americano. Just football. I don't think people
FUT football.
Yeah, I don't think people. If you're not a fan or you're not a casual fan, you're not sitting here going, "I got to watch Messi and Ronaldo match up, Mbappe play." I gotta sit there and watch. I don't, and I like soccer, football.
My golf partner Simon is from London, and he always tries to get me into it. And I'm like, man, you guys got so many leagues.
There's like 4 or 5.
You got the Champions League. You got Premier League. You guys got some. Now the Saudis are all involved. I mean, you guys got so much stuff. I can't keep
up. Speaking of European.
You got the Spanish leagues. You got the South American leagues. You got leagues everywhere.
Speaking of
How do you keep up with all these leagues and these time zones and countries, hemispheres?
Speaking of European football. There's a former 49ers coach who just won a championship over there.
Oh, Jim Tomsula.
Jimmy T, pride of Pittsburgh, just won a championship.
Jim Tomsula lived in my neighborhood when he was the head coach of the 49ers.
49ers.
He was a Willow Glen guy.
That's 2-time 49er head coach.
I saw Jim Tomsula at a Little League game by my house when his son was playing with my buddy's kid.
Don't dispute me on it. 2-time he was an interim head coach after they fired Singletary. And then he was the actual head coach after they moved on from Jimmy Harbs. 2-time 49er head coach. Now he's winning championships in Europe. Good for Jimmy T. Jim, what's your Jim Cosmore asked him, Jimmy, what's going to be your little offense? You're going to run it. We're going to run it. And
Jim Cosmore, the great Jim Cosmore. Jim Cosmore's a great dude. Cosmore's like looking at him going, and He couldn't get words out.
We're gonna run it. We're gonna throw it a little bit.
Where was I going with the soccer thing? I got sidetracked.
I don't know.
Where was I going with that?
Oh, and Super Bowl and
Super Bowl.
The quarterbacks.
So we got to do something on that. It is shocking that only 6 quarterbacks. So if you go to the Super Bowl and lose your first time, odds are you never get back there again. History shows you never get back there again. There's only been 6 guys who lost the Super Bowl and never got back there again. 6. And only 3 have ever won it.
I know 1.
Think about that. You go to the Super Bowl. Greatest honor as a quarterback, as a team, you're in the Super Bowl. Odds are you never go back again. And your team, odds are you don't even make the playoffs next year. Most quarterbacks will never see the Super Bowl again. Only 6 ever made it back to the Super Bowl, and 3 actually won it.
Elway.
Who am I? Well, Elway lost 3.
Yeah.
He lost 3 before he finally won, but Elway's won.
And you have this is what it was. You're reaching your first Super Bowl, right? And losing your first Super Bowl.
You lost your first Super Bowl.
I say because Brady doesn't count that.
Then the majority of the guys that come back, they never make the Super Bowl again after you lose the Super Bowl. There's countless guys.
But there's
only 6 made it back. Like Jim Kelly made it back 3 more times, but he never won a Super Bowl.
Favre.
No. Favre won.
Favre won. That's right.
He won his first Super
He
Bowl.
won against the Patriots.
Then lost against John Elway.
Yeah. Huh.
Who am I? Both are Hall of Famers.
I know, I'd have to actually sit and think for a minute about it.
Coming up next, we'll see he'll have the answer. And then we'll also talk to our national baseball columnist. Can he figure it out? Is there one thing that all 12 of the playoff teams do right, do well? Or maybe there just isn't. We'll talk about right here on A's Cast Live.
Hey, it's Eno Saris, your friendly neighborhood baseball scribe. There are 2 things I love, baseball and beer. When I'm not busy around the ballpark, you'll likely catch me back with a cold one at any of Fieldwork Brewing's 8 locations sprinkled across the Bay Area. Fieldwork's got a rotating lineup of over 20 beers on tap that's as diverse as any 26-man roster. They got everything from super juicy, hazy IPAs to crisp pilsners and tropical sours that make your taste buds do the wave. Whether you're all about that draft life or prefer to grab some cans to go, Fieldwork's got your bases covered. Check them out at fieldworkbrewing.com to learn more. That's fieldworkbrewing.com.
This is Chris Townsend and Commander Cody for Link Soul. The new summer colors and prints are in stock. The new polos, lightweight, all the colors you want. Fabulous. We got our new order.
My wife is so happy that I'm dressing so much better. All thanks to Link Soul.
You name it, whether it's polos, whether it's shorts, anything for your summer needs, you need to revamp your wardrobe. You go to linksoul.com and they got great summer deals. Go to linksoul.com. That's linksoul.com.
If you're looking for a new mattress, Nest Bedding has you covered. Sleep on the same mattress Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson sleeps on. Nest Bedding is the #1 brand of online mattresses and the Bay Area's favorite mattress store. Take home the Easy Breather pillow. The New York Times calls it their #1 pick. You can navigate their easy-to-use website, nestbedding.com. That's nestbedding.com. Green and Gold fans, use the coupon code Oakland and you get 10% off your entire order. Nest Bedding, love where you sleep.
Thanks to the Xfinity 10G network, my little brother's friends won't leave our house. When I was their age, internet with basically no interruptions was a pipe dream.
You sound like my grandpa.
Now through December 21st, new customers can get 1.2 gigabit internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data at regular rates. Switch today. Requires paperless bill and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity internet. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and Wi-Fi equipment. Actual speeds vary.
Chevron with Techron has unbeatable engine cleaning power, and it gives you unbeatable mileage for all kinds of unbeatable destinations, like time in the sun at the beach, or time in the sun riding roller coasters, or a day in the sun hiking mountains. Well, probably just one mountain would be enough for a day, but hiking a mountain is still an unbeatable choice for how to spend time. Download the Chevron app now to get unbeatable mileage at locations near you.
If you're looking for a great place to eat and watch games, go see our friends at the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. The Chicken Pie Shop is one of the hottest restaurants in Walnut Creek. You're not going to find a better menu, and come try their world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 86 years. Spacious indoor and outdoor dining, perfect for your next private party or corporate event. Don't forget free parking. For more information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Hey folks, Vince Petronio here to explain why Cinnabar Hills Golf Club on the hills of San Jose is my favorite place to play. With 27 holes to choose from, any level of player will love it. It's the best place to play in Silicon Valley. At the Turn, I've enjoyed the menu from the grill and the newly renovated restaurant, not to mention a 19th hole experience to relive the day. The expanded clubhouse will service all your needs, and best of all, you can plan any event, including weddings, at Cinnabar Hills Golf Club with some of the most amazing views of the Bay Area. Visit CinnabarHills.com. That's CinnabarHills.com.
And the underdogs, Oakland Athletics, win their first championship since they were in Philadelphia in 1930.
Hi, I'm Raleigh Fingers, Hall of Famer, three-time World Series champion with the Oakland A's and World Series MVP. Winning takes teamwork, skill, and heart. So when you need an ace for a personal injury lawyer that will win you the game, go with the winning team. Call Venardi Zerata at 833-VZ-for-me or go to vzlawfirm.com. Venardi Serrata, the official injury law firm of the Oakland A's.
Like sports, business is about winning. Championship decisions are business decisions based on what it takes to help your company win. And that's why there's UBO Business Services, specializing in helping you win every day by streamlining workflows, managing documents, and providing the best-in-class office technology. Make your championship decision with UBO Business Services. Visit them at ubeo.com. That's ubeo.com.
If you're looking for the latest green and gold gear for the 2023 season, then look no further than athletics.com/shop for your officially licensed gear. That's athletics.com/shop.
Innovation is at the core of Cal State East Bay, like at our Green Biome Institute, where faculty and students preserve genetic information from California's endangered plants, or how we open doors for local entrepreneurs at our Small Business Development Center. From educators to nurses to STEM professionals, Cal State East Bay has real impact throughout the region's neighborhoods, boardrooms, and the entire economy. Be part of the innovation. Connect with Cal State East Bay at csueastbay.edu/impact.
A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
Wow, I didn't realize that this was going to be a mind bender for you.
I know.
So, quarterbacks to lose the Super Bowl.
First Super Bowl.
Their Super Bowl debut. The last 17 have not returned to the Super Bowl. 35 never returned to the Super Bowl. Overall, 6 made it back. So there's 6 QBs who lost their Super Bowl debut and made it to at least another Super Bowl. But only 3 ever won it after they lost in their debut. You've mentioned one in the great John Elway.
I think the other 2 guys probably played in the 70s. So I'm going to go with Bob Greasy.
Bob Greasy is one.
Fran Tarkenton?
Fran Tarkenton never won a Super Bowl. But yet the Vikings were in a lot of Super Bowls.
I know. So,
Why is this not? Let's see how old Bob Greasy is.
Well, his son's the QB coach of the 49ers.
78 years old, the great Bob Greasy, the Hall of Famer.
You really got me. I don't know who the other one is.
I don't think he's with us anymore. Yeah, he died in 2022. Hall of Famer Len Dawson.
Huh.
Lenny, greatest Super Bowl picture ever. It is by far the greatest Super Bowl picture. I got a couple buddies who grew up in Kansas City. I save it. I send it to them all the time. It is by far, in this world of pampered athletes, this is the greatest Super Bowl picture of all time. Lenny Dawson, Hank Stramcon, Leonard Dawson. Lenny Dawson at halftime on a metal fold-out chair, smoking a cigarette, and I love when they always do like 70 sports, smoking a heart dart, drinking a Fresca. No pain pills, no IVs, no trainers massaging him, no therapeutic, the guns that they have that they try and get the knots out. Nope. Cigarette Fresca. What are we doing in the second half, Coach? That's a grown-ass man right there.
He wasn't scrolling Instagram?
Huh?
He wasn't scrolling Instagram and
wasn't on Instagram. He wasn't sitting there worried about it's what's Usher or Rihanna's closing song. None of that. They had a band and some cheerleaders out on the field.
Usher is doing the Super Bowl this year.
Lenny Dawson smoking a cigarette and drinking a Fresca. Greatest Super Bowl picture of all time. When men were men. He wasn't worried about free agency. He wasn't worried. He was there to win the Super Bowl. And the fact that it's right here. And the picture, he's taking a drag off of it too. That's the thing. It looks like he's almost smoking a joint. I mean, he is knee deep in this. He's all in.
Well, I can share it. Let me find it. Len Dawson, Sig and Fresca. Maybe some of our audience who are young, like,
you got to know who Lenny Dawson is.
Okay, here it is.
Pro Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, 3-time AFL champion. Remember, before the Super Bowl MVP, AFL championship MVP, AFL most valuable player, NFL man of the year. It goes on and on and on. Where did he go to college?
So if you look at our screen,
Purdue. He was a Purdue Boilermaker.
There he is right there. There's the photo.
There he is.
That's the iconic.
That's
Len
halftime
Dawson.
right there back in the day at the Super Bowl. You think he's worried about what Usher's top song is going to be?
What Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are up to?
When's Prince singing Purple Rain? He doesn't care. Janet Jackson's getting exposed by, what's it, Timberlake?
Yes.
You think that guy smoking that heart dart cares? He's there to win a game. That's old school football right there. I can tell you the things that I saw at halftime in the NFL. I mean, it is. Remind me, this is not the time we'll do it in the offseason. Remind me a conversation I had in London with our trauma doctor. Our doctor who ran a trauma unit in a hospital in the Bay Area. Trauma hospital. In the hospital, the trauma wing. When you get, as this doctor said, when you get to them, your life is in dramatic danger when you get to that part of the hospital. And having a trauma doctor compare what he sees, this is the car accidents, this is the motorcycle, this is gunshots, this is, and comparing what you see in a trauma hospital and what you see on Sundays in the National Football League blows your mind. It's scary what happens out there. Unbelievable. But yeah, how about that? Only 3 guys have lost their debut and come back to have the will to win the Super Bowl. And back then, if you remember, it would have been the 72 Dolphins, which is still the only undefeated team, 14-0. They lost the year before to the Dallas Cowboys. So they were the only team before the Patriots did it to lose a Super Bowl and come back and win the next year. We can't even get teams to make the playoffs the next year after the Super Bowl.
I mean, hell, the Rams won the Super Bowl and they were 5-12 last year.
Yeah, you haven't seen. I mean, how many times have you seen a team win the Super Bowl and then they make a nice run the next year? I mean, when there was a certain point, the 80s and the 90s, the Niners were always there. either getting into the Super Bowl, winning it, or playing in the NFC title game, or they're always in the postseason. You don't see that anymore. The losing team, there's something, the toll it takes. I don't know. Is it psychology? I don't know what you have to do. I don't know how you look into that, but obviously there's something to it because the magnitude of this game is so big on your career, and then you lose it. And obviously with success, guys want to get paid. How much does that play to it? But there's obviously something to you lose the Super Bowl, you're never the same again. And some talented quarterbacks and some not so talented quarterbacks. I don't think we're going to go like Rex Grossman was going to be the net. Yeah, I said Rex Grossman.
The greatness of Florida. What about Stan Humphries?
Stan Humphries never made it back.
Dan Marino never made it back. We're talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Dan Marino never made it back. Currently right now,
Kerry Collins, the great Tennessee Titan, Oakland Raider, Penn State Nittany Lion.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Oh. Steelers great Neil O'Donnell.
Never made it happen. It's a great stat. When I saw it last night, I sent it to you. It's a great stat. But I got to find me the stat through Eno Saris, our national baseball columnist. What is it that all playoff teams do? Are we really saying, because if that's the case, what does that tell you about roster construction? That you can't guarantee, hit a ton of home runs. So that doesn't guarantee you. We found out playing great defense doesn't guarantee it. I mean, we're trying to figure out what's the one thing that all these teams do that you say, you know what? If I do this, I can be a winning team. Are we ready for Eno, the great Eno Saris, our national baseball columnist? Do you have his open?
Yes.
The Eno Saris Show is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company. With 8 taproom locations in Northern California, Fieldwork brings you fresh craft beer direct from the source. Fieldwork will also ship beer direct to your door if you live in California. Visit fieldworkbrewing.com.
Eno, we got a show on Monday, the wrap-up show. Obviously, the playoffs will start right after. We've been looking at it. I'd like to find out, and we don't know exactly who the teams are going to be. We're starting to see, as the Brewers have now clinched, slowly but surely teams are clinching. But there's got to be one thing, right, that we can look at all 12 teams, that all 12 teams, they do X, Y, Z, that they all do one thing right, or they all do this one thing. Can we find that one thing? Is it possible?
I mean, one thing that they all do is hit the ball well. I mean, it's a dumb thing. People seem to think that just pitching and defense are all that matters in the postseason. Milwaukee is the only team that's below average with bats that's going to make the postseason, and they made a lot of acquisitions at the trade deadline and have actually been a league average team in the last month since the deadline. And if you look at just the best hitting teams in baseball, it's Atlanta, who's one of the best hitting teams of all time, Tampa, Dodgers, Rangers, Astros. I mean, those are some of your better teams in ball. So if you just look at the top 10 by bats, there's only one non-playoff team in that group.
But as long as there's one, that means it's not all. And it's like,
well, it's the Padres, of course.
Well, the Guardians last year. So as long as there's one, I'm saying there has to be one thing, right, that all 12 do. So when we have the bracket set up, all 12, will we be able to find? We try to look at defense. You can't because Philly stinks, right? There's like certain things that maybe there just isn't one. Maybe I'm searching for something I can't find.
Well, if the Reds don't make the postseason, one thing that every team, the Diamondbacks, you're killing me.
There's always one team that's the fly in the
I wanted to say that every team scored more runs than their opponents this year, but the Diamondbacks have scored 7 runs less than their opponents, so there's still a chance.
Yes.
They got to go on a tear.
It's got to be 12 for 12. It's got to be 12. There can't be an outlier. It has to be 12 to 12, 12 for 12. So we'll see if we can find something on Monday. But it is hard, right? Because there's always like, if you look at bullpens, most of these teams have good bullpens. And then here comes the Texas Rangers with a horrific.
And you even remember in the postseason, the Nationals had a terrible bullpen the year they won it all. And they just said, that's fine. Our starting pitchers are going to pitch like 80% of our innings.
That is correct. And then speaking of starting pitching, starters records, most of the good teams have good starters records. I know starters records, they don't matter anymore to anybody. That's one thing to look at a lot, but you're going to find an outlier in there. There's always going to be an outlier. We got to find something that's 12 for 12. There's two interesting games tonight. There's Astros and there's Mariners. And then we got to get to the what the hell happened game. That is the Padres and the Giants. But let's start in the Pacific Northwest. Whoever wins tonight, this really puts you in the driver's seat. And it's hard to believe that one of these teams, Astros or Mariners, is going to go home. They're going to come so close. It's like you sat there in that 2-hour-long Disneyland ride, and you waited for Space Mountain, waited Space Mountain, you finally got into Space Mountain, and you finally get right there. Up, ride's closed. It's like the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
You know what can you imagine what that feel like if you're the Astros or you're the Mariners and you've been going at this in spring training at the very end, boop, you're going home.
Yeah, and for the Mariners especially, I think they're one of the last, or maybe the last team that's never made it to the World Series.
They have not made it to the World Series.
And so there's not that many franchises that have had much pain in the past. For them to finally put together the August that they did and have Julio playing the way he has and that staff looking the way it does, and to come up short would be tragic. It also is interesting because I think that they're both better teams than whoever will be the third wild card in the NL. We're talking about the Marlins at 81-75, the D-backs who have scored fewer runs than their opponents, or the Reds at 81-77. I think those are all flawed teams. The Marlins have a poor offense. The Reds have their issues. Worst defensive team in baseball, or one of them. And the D-backs have this weird, scoring and a bad bullpen. So I would take the Astros and Mariners over any of those teams. And so it will be kind of sad when one of them doesn't make it.
Yeah, Arizona run differential -4 right now. Miami's playing a double dip against the Mets. Right now they're -51. They're just a half game out, then a game and a half out. Cincinnati, they're -44. So some bad run differentials there.
D-backs could get that to 0 for us, and then we could say, 12 for 12.
All right, I'm in. We need the 12 for 12. The Padres and the Giants.
The Padres will still be a team that scored more runs than their opponents and didn't make it. And they're the team that has a good rotation and didn't make it. They're the team that has a good lineup and didn't make it. And it's an unfortunate answer because nobody likes it. But it is, I just think, luck, because last year they were 22-5 in one-run games, and this year they're like 5-22. It's exactly, they were the best team in baseball in one-run games last year, and they're the worst team in like 30 years this year. And I just think it's just poor luck for Bob Melvin, because Bob Melvin is the guy that used to be the king of one-run games. So I don't think it's a good answer. Over in San Francisco, I think when you look at the talent, it's nowhere close to the same talent as San Diego. It's not a question of they squandered all this talent. I mean, it's a mediocre team that had a mediocre season.
All right, let's start back with the Padres first.
Mm-hmm.
When you are this bad in one-run games and you're this bad in extra innings games and you do it for an extended period of time, how do you keep throwing luck into it? That's something that happens on a weekend, maybe a month, but when you do it for half a year,
it can happen. It can happen over a full season.
Year?
It can happen over a full season.
You're lucky or unlucky for half a year?
They were 22-5 last year.
It's a different team.
Not that different.
Human beings to human beings are different. You're different last year than you are this year. Everybody changes. Everything changes in life. Life constantly moves.
Okay.
People don't.
All right. So how about this? Is chaos a better word for it than luck? I mean, it's just
Totally.
it's a lot of the
Chaos,
same personnel. It's a lot of the same personnel. They're just not
And
doing the same
remember,
things this year.
they didn't have like a world beater year before. What, they went 88, 89 games. It wasn't like they were like a 100-win team. They got hot at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing that I will say is interesting is that they have this terrible record in one run in extra inning games. And we've had this new change in the rules. And we've seen that, in fact, home teams in extra innings don't have a home field advantage. And I think that that's because teams are not doing the right thing with their closer when they're at home. I think that what we're seeing is teams not using their closer, like saving their closer for when they're ahead or whatever it is. I can't. I wish I could just tell you what it is, but a suboptimal use of closers, and I've seen this with the Padres. So there is something with the new rules where you have to think about how to best use your relievers with the new rules. Going 0-11 in postseason games, it's in extra inning games, is more concerning to me than the one-run thing.
How about the Hader thing from 2 nights ago?
That's sort of what I'm talking about. It's like, there have been times when they should have used Hader and they didn't. And is Hader involved in that?
Yeah, maybe they wanted to use Hader.
Yeah, right.
Like,
so
no, Milwaukee screwed this up. I went above and beyond all those years, and then they always tried to underpay me. And I mean, that's something that we forget about, how like a player will just go balls to the wall for a franchise, and then all of a sudden they try and stiff them in the offseason. So I kind of understand it. I hate it, but I kind of understand where Hader's like, man, I could give you everything. And then the offseason, you're going to try and, especially in arbitration, try and tell me everything I did wrong.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to get hurt before I finally get to choose my team for the first time in my career. I don't blame him too much for what he's saying, but I do think that it says something to that dysfunction of communication, because I think this is the sort of thing that can happen if you're like, well, Bob's telling me one thing, but AJ just texted me another thing. You know what I mean? It's like, then you can sort of be like, I'm not going to listen to Bob. Bob's telling me I need to be out there, but AJ understands.
Does it speak for why the Brewers would have gotten rid of him last year when they were trying to?
I think they're like the Rays. They're just trying to keep everyone cheap, and they're just trying to keep moving. They turned that into Estoy Ruiz, who they turned into their starting catcher. I mean, it's just like, just keep the ball rolling. I don't think that they necessarily were like, we need to get rid of him. But did you see video of Bob Melvin after the games, like the last couple nights?
You could tell he's done. Knowing Bob the way I do, he's done. And I know how Bob felt.
I don't think I've ever seen him talk like that. He said things like, "Oh, just guess that's how we're doing it." I'm like, what? This is Bob Melvin, man. He's had some bad seasons in Oakland, and he never acted like that or never talked like that. So there's some serious dysfunction there, and even the CEO of the team has talked about a full internal review from top to bottom. So I kind of expect changes there in a large way in San Diego.
Yeah, payroll's going to come down. It's kind of a case study, right? Like, why did it go bad? Is there anything people can learn from this? Because obviously, if you just take out the individual numbers, because the individual numbers will show you they should have a much better record, but something has gone really, really wrong. And it's all over the place, right? It's like something that is spread. It's between Preller, below Preller, to Bob Melvin, to the player. There's a lot of bad juju going on there.
Yeah, too many cooks, too many leaders, too many high-priced free agents, just because it's hard to get. There's this thing called the monkey sphere, where, like, the monkeys, if you bring a new monkey in, it doesn't matter how old the monkey is. It only matters how new the monkey is to the group. And so you can bring an old monkey into the group, but they don't respect that old monkey because he's new to the group. That's a thing that happens with monkeys, and I think it's the thing that
Calling
happens with
United
humans.
Kingdom on us right now. This is like
Yeah.
San Diego Zoo. I mean, I like this. Discovery Channel.
We've talked about this a little last week, but if I was running a team, I wouldn't want to be like cheap, but I would want to add the right free agents around a core. I would want to identify that group of young position players like the Orioles have or like the Royals had once. I would want to identify my Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt and then add around them, as opposed to just sort of trading away all my prospects and taking this best player from here, this best player from here, this best player from here, and expecting them all to sort of cohesively get along when they haven't ever played together before and they've all been leaders where they were before. So that's sort of what I think describes some of the sort of soft science of what went wrong in San Diego beyond the organizational stuff we've talked about.
So you bring in the older monkey and they don't respect the monkey. That's just not right.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like Tatis is like, well, I've been here the longest, and Manny's like, well, I've been here about as long and I'm older, you should respect me. And Xander Bogaerts is like, well, I got a ring, and Soto's like, they call me Ted Williams and I got a ring too, and like everyone's like, I should be the leader. I should be the leader.
Yeah. Well, and I also want Tatis's numbers aren't the same. He hasn't been the same player. I know he's done well in right field, but I think if I went to it and I looked at what he was in his best at a shortstop, I don't like him defensively at short, but you look at his slug, his OPS, it's all kind of down.
His batted ball, but I think some of his underlying batted ball numbers suggest that I could see him having that year where Acuna was down after his big surgery and then took a big leap forward with a normal year off, because what I'd heard from injury experts on Tatis is that the wrist injury was a bigger deal than people were talking about. Like they talked a lot about the shoulder subluxation, which we talked about has a parallel to Cody Bellinger's up and downs over his career, same injury, but he had a bad shoulder injury and a bad wrist injury at the same time. So I'm willing to say that his future may still be brighter in the future.
Yeah, it's a bad combo. Shoulder, wrist for a hitter, not good. On the flip side, going to the Giants, and I said this earlier, obviously, when you're an A's-centric show and you're ripping the Giants.
And you're a troll.
But we do have to cover all the teams, right? And this is just being factual. Giants have lost 18 of 24 in September. This is essentially a 2 games under 500 for 2 seasons since they won 107 games. You got Logan Webb coming out and talk about chemistry. Kapler agreed with what he had to say. It's just, what's going on?
I was in that scrum.
So what vibe are you getting from them?
Panic and paranoia. That's not necessarily Logan. I think Logan's just reacting to, the Giants clubhouse has always been one of comfort, and you go in there, they got nice seats, recliners, they got big double wide, lockers with they can plug in their iPads in them. Like I mentioned before, Tyler Rogers has like a wine cellar, storage in one of his in an extra locker. So it's been one of comfort. I've seen basketball top shot like things in there. I've seen bumper pool. There's a lot of card games, but that's been the Giants. Back to Barry. Barry used to have 2 lockers.
7 lockers.
One had like a TV in it, so it's it's always been a team that's been friendly to veterans and a team that has tried to make them comfortable. I tried to get Kapler to talk on is there a relationship between comfort and accountability? Because if you think about it, there's been, Andrew Baggerly wrote hey, someone started playing Bob Marley after losses. And that's a little weird. And then you think about let's say we have the top shot and we have the bumper pool out and we have the card tables out and they've lost and everyone just goes and sits down and plays pool or takes some hoop shots and no one feels that bad about the loss because they feel comfortable. Is there a relationship between comfort and accountability? Kapler was having none of that. And
Really?
he said, he pushed back on my question saying, talking about the music in the clubhouse at the end of the game is a smokescreen. It's not talking about the actual issues. All that we need to talk about is how we prepare for games, our process for preparation, blah, 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 blah. And I've just, I'm not sure that he answered my question. I kind of feel like he used the word smokescreen as a smokescreen to not answer my question, because I do wonder if you have all these like mid-level, I'll call them, I'm not being rude now, mid-level veterans that you bring in, and then there's just, you don't have that young group that comes together, and like they're starting to have that. Maybe there is some conflict between the younger ones being like, man, we're at the Giants, we're supposed to win, and the medium ones are being like, well, I got 2 years and $36 million. It might be one of the last contracts I get, and I just need to hit 19 homers this year and have a 350 OBP, and like, I'll be all good. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So I think there is some conflict between what you're supposed to act like after a loss, and how much of a red ass you're supposed to be. And the old Giants had two very famous red asses in Buster Posey and Madison Bumgarner that wouldn't sort of allow for that, and just broadcast how much they wanted to win every day and how it was not cool to lose. And that was like seeping through, even when you're sitting in a recliner playing cards, that Buster Posey's over there seething, So I think Logan was trying to be like, yo, I'm like that. I don't want to lose. I'm the Buster Posey in this room. Know that I'm angry, So I think there's some sort of trying to broadcast to each other, like how to be as a team, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough when you start talking about culture and start talking about chemistry, because then you're really challenging. It's one thing when you can look at X's and O's. There's one thing when you can look at data and you can look at numbers and you can look at all this kind of stuff and health and all. But when you start questioning somebody's leadership, it starts to get personal.
Yeah, and it felt a little bit that way in the questioning. He was, he's like, yes, I want to take personal accountability, but I want to take it on this level of process and data and like how we get ready for games. That's what we need to look at. But I think that honestly, like leadership is the tougher one, because you can't. It's almost one of the reasons I like numbers is it's easier. You look at the numbers and it's like, okay, we do what the numbers say we should do, right? And that's easier. What's harder is trying to figure out, whoa, our players are yelling at each other. Is that just because we're losing, or am I not in the clubhouse enough? These are harder questions. Should I be hanging out with them? Should I do a dinner? Should I be nicer? Should I be meaner? Those are harder.
Yeah, it's the life stuff, right? It's the life. Like we try and tell people all the time, like a player could be really struggling. You don't know what he's got going at home. Right. You don't know what's happening with the wife, with kids, with girlfriends, with parents. Stuff, life happens, and how you manage it. And when you're saying, because that was one thing we always talked about, Bob, was like the leadership of Bob Melvin with the men in the room and how much they respected him and trusted him. Like if you have players openly saying at this time of the year, hey, our culture sucks, this needs to change. That's front offices. It's an indictment on the manager. He's the guy who sets he sets the culture.
I know it has to be on some level. And then we had this really weird interaction. I was at the game last night where, we had this really weird interaction with John Brebbia, and you see this smile on Gabe Kapler's face, but it's almost the Cheshire Cat smile where he's like smiling and trying to make it seem like a joke. But in the past, a pitcher has begged to stay in the game or been mad about being taken out of the game and got cut by the organization the next day. A pitcher that is now in the starting rotation for the Tampa Bay Rays, Zach Littell, was cut the day after he was mad about being taken out of a game. So now John Brebbia is making a joke. Maybe he's he's kind of a strange cat where it's like, it's kind of hard to tell if he's making a joke, by pulling Kapler's arm down so that he can't put that left hand up for the reliever, And so now you have these two grown men touching, and they're supposedly laughing and supposedly smiling. But that smile to me, it was a little bit like, I'm laughing, everyone, this is funny, right? And I'm going to hit him real hard on the ass to show everybody that we just had a joke, And he hit him so hard on the ass that the reliever dropped his glove. So, like, it was just, I thought, just the weirdest thing that just showed me that, like, maybe there's some lack of feel there in terms of just, how he feels, how Kapler feels his place is with the men. Is it one where I am unquestionably in charge and you shall not stand up to me? Or is it one where we can make a joke about pulling my arm down so I can't take the lefty?
I mean, we could do a long show on the off seasons for the Giants and the Padres. It's going to be real interesting what they're going to do to try and get back, because they're two teams that have the resources, they have the wherewithal, but both sitting. Like, if we would have talked to you at the winter meeting and said, hey, by the end of September, they're both going to be 78 and 80, you would have said, no way.
That would have been weird. Yeah. I would have said maybe for the Giants, but it would have been weird for the Padres to be there. And then for them
to call me a troll.
No, not for the Giants. Like, it's
and I would have said team. You're right.
But one thing that could help, other than, I don't know. I actually don't. The managerial thing is just super hard for me to figure out, and it's super hard for me to figure out what makes a great manager. There are so many different kinds. There are yellers. There are really calm guys. There are all big leader types, more friendly types. There's all different kinds that have worked in different scenarios. But I think that, like, and this is silly because maybe Shohei is not even thinking about the Giants, but if you put Shohei Ohtani on the Giants, I know he's a position player and a pitcher, but you have finally that star position player that you're paying a lot of money to, and there's one. And he is a red ass like those guys. All he wants to do is win. That's why he was still out there hitting when his elbow was hurt, because all he wants to do is get out there and play. And I think that could really be helpful to have a position player that's the unquestionable leader in the clubhouse that you then have as an ally to Kapler. You know what I mean? Because it is a two-way street. As much as the manager wants to yell and do anything, there has to be a position player leader that's basically on his side. I think it's like a two-person thing.
Great stuff as always. Hey, we're thinking about you and your family. We just wanted to let you know that. Obviously not easy. We just want to know we're thinking about you. And we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The great Eno Saris, our baseball columnist from The Athletic. That's going to do it. We got
The Eno Saris Show is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company. With 8 taproom locations in Northern California, Fieldwork brings you fresh craft beer direct from the source. Fieldwork will also ship beer direct to your door if you live in California. Visit fieldworkbrewing.com.
Like the stickers my kids got for my computer? Huh?
Yeah.
Like the stickers?
Yeah, but yes, that will do it. We'll be back on Friday at 4 for our last regular season show.
Really?
That'll be game 159. No, that's game 160. Tomorrow's 159.
All right. Back what time?
4. Well, actually, we're both on tomorrow. We'll both be on postgame tomorrow.
Yeah, I got to do NBC tomorrow, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So A's Cast Live Friday at 4 o'clock against the Angels. I'm going to try to get your guy, Mark Langston.
All right. Thank you to Tim Kirchin and Eno Saris. A's Total Access brought to you by Chevron. Next, right here on A's Cast and the A's Radio Network. This is Chris Townsend and Getter Cody for Link Soul. You got to go to their website right now, linksoul.com. The new polos are unbelievable. New colors, lighter weight. We got our new summer shipment, Cody.
I couldn't be happier. I look better, all thanks to Link Soul.
So we're talking about new polos. You can check out their shorts, anything you need for summer. They have it right now. When you go to their website, they've got a